All right, everything wrong with a Coyote 5-liter, whether it's a Boss or an F-150 engine. We got a little bit of experience with them. This is a Boss 302 that was swapped into a 05 Mustang that we picked up. Got it running, sounds great. There really isn't a pile wrong with it, just a few things. One, it's really, really big. Two, none of the parts are ambidextric, so left cylinder head is the left, right is the right, not like the LS. We like really getting complicated swaps like the Mercedes and the Audi where things have to go on backwards. But there's no point in just talking about it. If you remember the Silverado video, we picked up an F-150 5-liter, and there's definitely something wrong with that one. So we're gonna head over to Scott at Northtown, who's got more experience about the Coyotes than I do. So we're gonna tear that one down with Scott, go over why he thinks it's a great engine and why he thinks they're better than LS. And I'm gonna argue him on some points and I'm gonna agree with some points. Let's get into it, here we go. All right, so just in case you guys were wondering what was going on, we bought the Mustang because it had a brand new Coyote Boss 302 in it, but they couldn't get it running. So we're gonna put the Holley system on the Mustang, get it running, beat the crap out of the car for a while, then pull the engine out and put it in a Bronco. In the meantime, this one came up super cheap, and this is a 2013 F-150. So this is kind of the least desirable Coyote engine because it's the first gen, lowest horsepower. They had a few small issues. This one's seized, that's an issue. No! Fram! Still in business, even after the internet loves to hate. That filter was not on very tight. I suspect somebody had that off. The only thing it really shares is the block. The heads are completely different. It's got sodium-filled valves, different camshafts. The crankshaft is the same, but the journals are hardened a different way and are balanced different with the different pistons and connecting rods. It doesn't have oil squirters, the Coyote does. It doesn't have this cool intake either that increases the torque. No, drops torque, increases horse. I don't want to. One of the two. Anyway, let's pull the pan off, see what we find. Here we go. So, lots of filings in the oil. Lots and lots of filings. That's funny. That's pretty crazy. Look at that. So it's not just Cummins that do it. Ford 5-liter does it as well. The bolt came loose. Perfectly not damaged at all. Tip of it bent a little bit as it was coming down. The cat would have bent it over. But yeah, bolt came out. Never had it before in my life. Now I've had two in the last 2 months. Crazy. Okay, so again, not gonna lie, I'm kind of green to the Coyotes and the Ford gas engines, other than my hatred for the 5.4. But Scott here.
Whoa, hatred to the 5.4. What did it do?
Make you tons of money is what it did. But these are actually really good engines, and we thought that rather than me just spouting off stuff, we'd talk to Scott, who does all our engine building on the channel, and get your opinion on why the 5-liter is better than the LS. Or is it?
Oh my God, that's a lot of controversy there. Yeah, I actually haven't done too many of them. I've done a few for the local dealership. This is one of the better Ford engines.
Yeah, yeah, that's good that it doesn't come knocking on your door. Yep. You do a lot of power strips, right?
Yes, yes. I try not to.
Nice. So if you pop the hood, you open the hood, it's a very nice clean engine, even though it's really big, and that's because of the two camshafts on the top. 3 generations. Generation 1 was 11 to 14, Generation 2 was 15 to 17, and Generation 3 is 18 to current. Generation 1 had the biggest issues, and that was the connecting rods, right?
Yeah, that's both what I've done. I think I've done 3 or 4. Every one of them is the connecting rod. It seems to be the only issue. We just update everything. Mostly connecting rod bearings. I get to them before they blow out.
So it's the bearings that let go?
It's the bearings and the clearances between it. They have updated bearings for that. The ones I've done personally, I've gotten to before this has happened.
What's the telltale sign?
Noise.
Noise?
Yeah, it starts to make a racket, it starts to bounce off. I don't know if the dealers are automatically doing the change when a certain amount of kilometers come up, or I just get the job.
I want to see that in the 4.0 service manual. Like at 50,000 K, rotate your tires.
Change bearings.
100,000, 150,000, rebuild your engine.
I have seen a couple videos on the GT500s too that they've had the same issue with.
All right, let's get into it, see if we can save it. There you go.
Yeah, these things are stuck on there.
Because it's stuck around the coils.
Yeah, I should have put my Old Spice on this morning.
Sweating already? So we got a little bit of sludge buildup. Is that typical? What do you think? And it's kind of discolored into a...
Usually the discoloration is usually what I see from the synthetic.
Okay.
Synthetic is really popular to run in these engines. I think it calls for it from Ford. That's because the phasers, they want thinner oil that goes through the small filters that they use for doing their cam phasing that's controlled by oil pressure. A lot of that sludge I see is usually from the synthetic, usually short drives. It doesn't get up to temperature properly. It will actually crystallize and will start to leave small deposits all over. And that's what I start to see on the pistons, in the oil rings. Very common. Most people don't get to see that side of the damages that synthetic can cause.
Yeah.
It's not that it's bad, it's too good, but it's not meant for a short drive vehicle. Yeah.
It's funny, this is a different color than this. The driver's is like a light brown.
Yeah.
Passenger's dark, like a cherry red almost. And not as much sludge on this one. This one is like a tiny bit, whereas this is a lot worse.
Yeah, it's really hanging up in there, right?
That's weird.
Yeah, you start to see it all around the cam phase stuff too. All the buildup, all the crustiness. On that side, you can see it's crusty and it's flaky, right? On this, you can see where it's gummy just from it sitting there and cooling. And you can get the gumminess on it. And that's just from the synthetic oils. And the water pump was a pain.
So you've been a fan of Ford all along. And
4.6 is my favorite engine.
okay.
It's bulletproof, very easy mods to do to it. Every engine has their problems, but the 4.6 is pretty much the top of my personal list. No cam phaser, single overhead cam, 4.6, lots of power. And for all the Mustang guys, Cobra Mustang guys, 2001, they'll understand where I'm coming from. Best engine. One thing that we didn't touch on is that this 5-liter isn't Ford's first attempt at a dual overhead cam. I don't know all the engines out there, but they did do a real good engine, I think it was in town cars. Also the Marauder, I think, had it in it. Okay. And it was a dual overhead cam 4.6 non-cam phaser engine. But they really went messy with that because, well, they have two versions of those engines, and some of the cam gears on it are non-keyed and slip on. So even the timing on that gets very difficult too. But that was a really, really good engine.
Nice.
A lot of hot rod guys love those ones. Then they went to the 5.42 valve, almost essentially the same as the 4.6. Very, very minute differences, nothing really crazy. Bore size, obviously. I'm sure I'll get lots of posts about that. But as terms as machining, identical engine.
Okay.
Very easy to work on, lots and lots of mods. Typical only problem I really see in those engines are the lifter bores in the head. If regular maintenance isn't done, lifters start to clog up. Lifters go solid and then breaking out the side of the head. And then I just weld them back up, rebore it out, and it's fixed.
Then the 3-valve 5.4 is when it all went wrong.
Then the abortion.
Okay.
Yes. Not a fan favorite of mine. I've already stopped working on those engines. There's no fixing for them. They had a single overhead cam, 3-valve engine, and the problem, in my opinion, and from experience of working on it, the spring pressure wasn't fixed on it. So they were pushing up on the cams, which was wearing out the cam caps. And then the small fibers and the small pieces of that would get clogged in the cam phaser filters, which would then cause all the cam phaser problems.
Okay.
So they do offer a kit where you can put the caps back on, rebore out your cam caps, and put actually an inserted bearing, kind of like exactly the same bearing as you'd find in your bottom end, just smaller. Actually, the same bearing is what they do in ATVs. It's just an inserted bearing, P-series bearing, but it's a very, very expensive fix for an engine that should just be found in the junkyard.
Okay.
That's it.
But they're all fixed with 2 camshafts?
They're all fixed as long as you do your maintenance.
Okay.
All this synthetics, which again, in my opinion, has its places in the industry. But little things like this was just a ticking time bomb.
There are tools to set and time everything. Can't just do it without a couple blocks of wood to keep stuff in places.
No, nothing like that. I typically just let the dealerships do that. I do all the machining.
Need a bigger bar.
Or man strength. Oh, look at the dirt. Yeah, he was off-roading or something.
Like a different kind of sludge. It's like never sees.
It's not that scary when you get into it.
The other worst thing for an engine is switching manufacturers of oils.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, oils are so modified by the manufacturers that one oil doesn't work with the other. So you get the typical value shopper, I call them. The guys that go to the Walmart and the Canadian Tires and freaking Sam's Club or whatever, and they switch out all their different oils and take it to the Jiffy Lube, which is recycled oil. So all these different blends don't mix together.
So one chain drives one camshaft and the second camshaft, the intake, runs off of the exhaust.
A lot of these cams are hollow cams because that's where the oil pressure goes through.
Yep.
So if the pressure's on the center and you do the 2 ends, you can bend the cam or possibly break the cam.
Okay.
So yeah, you'll see how much it comes up off the spring pressure too, like it'll lift quite a bit. Oh, should have started at the same time and raced. I hear a lot of grunting over there.
Yeah.
You okay?
I don't work out like you. I don't have a whole workout room in my shop.
Nothing more Canadian than tin cups and Mastercraft. First off, just double check that all the caps are numbered, because you definitely don't want to get those swapped and then have to worry about trying to figure out which one goes in the right place.
Why your camshaft won't turn?
Yeah.
Why it's a huge squeal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 79.
You don't want to mix them up because they just added 8 hours to your rebuild.
Oh, you just hit it with a hammer. Oh, okay. Trying to be gentle. Oh, you just hit it with a hammer. That's how it works.
Oh, I figured it out. I have seen or have heard of rocker arms popping out from over revving.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if in this generation has had a problem. You got her?
Yep. Why are you grunting? I'm not grunting.
Not yet. You're taller.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah.
I'm short and compact. I can see you holding in the grunts. I can see it in your vein and your forehead. See? There you go. I'll do it for you if you're not gonna do it.
I have an appointment with the hernia specialist right after this.
It's not that bad.
Oh, that's definitely fixable.
Yeah.
That's easy.
There's a little chunk missing right there. Well, scraped anyway. I don't think it was bouncing around long before it let go.
No.
I think it jammed up pretty quick. So it being up against the side of the throw, would you be worried about the crankshaft being bent or warped?
It could possibly, we have all the tools to check that.
Yeah.
So we'll check for a bend, we'll check it all over, especially miking it for size.
Okay.
But we can rule all that stuff out.
Yep.
And even if it is bent, I can straighten it.
So the second and third gens came with bigger valves.
Yeah, they're not much. You said
No, it was like
30 thou or something?
something like that, 0.3 or something like that. But
That's not much.
no issues like with the diesels cracking on the heads that you've seen in between the
Usually
seats.
aluminum heads are pretty good, especially the 5 liters, even the 4.6s. The only cracks I see are the lifter bores. That's it. They're pretty good. Oh yeah, she's chunky down there.
Yeah.
So it is cast iron bore. So I think in 2014, They went to the Nikasil, or 13 maybe?
15.
15. They went to the Nikasil cylinders.
Okay.
So because 2 of the engines I've done already are the Nikasil bores, so you can't do anything, not repairable. But you see the line there? I sanded off the carbon so you can see the color difference. A lot of these engines, even like the 5.3 Chevys, they're all casted in sleeves. So the sleeves are actually on a mold, and the engine is built by pouring the cast around the sleeves. So when I get into it, when I actually start boring to do repair sleeves, they're bumpy because that's what holds the sleeve in. Better surface area, stronger, right? So
Yeah.
I'll bore all this out, but it doesn't feel that bad. I feel like we could probably do 1 or 2 oversizes, probably 1 oversize. So we have 2 options. We can either sleeve this 1 cylinder, bring it back to stock, and reuse all the parts, or we bore and hone the whole block and
Turn it into an actual 5 liter because it's only like 4.96 or something like that, and then they round it up. So it's not a true 5 liter.
the only thing with that though, which is a common misconception even in 350s, a lot of people say when they bore 30 over and stuff that now they got a 355 and stuff. It doesn't work like that. If you replace with factory pistons, if we were to bore this all over say 30 thou, when we replace the factory pistons, they actually bring down the compression height for the oversize of bore.
Okay.
So it's still, by math, the numbers are still equating.
Okay.
But they compensate because computers are really touchy when it comes to this stuff, especially in this generation. Even in the 355s, you go 30 over, well, it's compensated in compression distance.
Yeah.
So the top of the piston is actually decreased. So they're not changing really the engine.
Okay.
It just sounds good.
I think in the first generation, even though it's a cast sleeve, they had issues with it warping. So going oblong and then burning oil. So that was fixed in the 2nd gen, and then the 3rd gen they went to plasma transferred wire something or other. So it's, I think they like weld a sleeve in there and something like that. That's the latest gen, so 2018.
Okay.
So by doing it that way, they make the sleeve even smaller.
Okay.
So then it's a 5.02 or 5.9, or it's an actual 5 liter, yeah. So see if that holds up. But yeah, let's take this head off, knock the pistons off, and see if any of them are oblong.
Yep.
If that's an issue, I think that was an issue with the 1st gen. Got your now it's a nice cute engine.
Yep.
Now it's the size of an LS.
Yep. Just still 10 times better.
Multi-layered gaskets. That's always good.
Oh, more coolants. They are torque-sealed bolts, so like the engine that came apart, you said that one of the bolts backed off.
I thought so. Yeah.
In most torque-sealed applications, I don't usually see bolts backing off.
Okay.
Just because they are designed to really twist, and they have a lot of compression on them, right?
Right.
So I don't often see that. Let's do a little tightening and see if that wasn't very good. Now, if we see damage on this bearing, then it might lead us to kind of explain to us what might have happened. So that's what I don't like seeing. I really don't like seeing the bearings come out. And I get that often when the bearings stay on the crank. Some people will argue that the suction cup from the oil will hold it in.
Yeah.
But I really don't like the sign of that.
Okay.
And if it happens on other ones, then that's when I started looking at some of the rods.
Okay.
There's enough tension and crush on these rods that they should stay in there. So that fretting that's in there is a sign of it starting to seize up.
Okay.
It's not lack of oil, it's not a chunk that went through. When you start to see like the little bubbling and the fretting in there,
Okay.
that was it starting to get ready to tighten up. Typically in low oil, I don't see it on this one. Your oil pump's at the front. So if there is an oil pump issue, it'll start at number 8 first.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's impossible that this could happen if this one was maybe a little bit tighter than the rest of them.
Okay.
It is possible maybe something got stuck in the oil gallery. We'll find out when we put this piston out if that bearing stays in there too. And then what we can do is we can torque this back up and set our mic and see what we have.
Right. So this was the biggest problem with the 1st gen, and the 2nd gen they did some sort of
Yeah, you said a sintered.
that's the word.
Casted rod or
Yeah.
sintered forged rod.
And then they never had an issue again. So
Um,
these are I-beam, right?
Now, in a lot of these situations, when we have a cracked rod like this, they offer oversized bearings, but what happens is that the housing bore is what changes. So you can't, like a traditional rod, say like on a 350, I can cut the top and bottom and resize the rods. On these, you can't. So they offer a 2 thou oversized bearing on the outside diameter, so then I can resize these rods and put good bearings in, and then I get to control the crush that's on that bearing.
Okay.
Now all this is fixable as long as it's not over limits. See?
Yeah.
Don't like that. Again, this is just my opinion.
Yeah.
But to see a bearing fall like that, I'm guessing when we take number 8, we probably won't see it. See the buildup? We can even see it inside the ring. See how all the oil drain back is getting clogged up.
Yep.
And you can see it around even the middle section of the rings. And that's usually really good evidence of synthetic running.
Okay.
If you use quality conventional oil,
Yeah.
on regular oil changes, you don't see that. Synthetic is like that, and then when it gets really sludgy, is from different oils you've been used all the time.
Okay.
And again, not that it's bad.
Well, yeah, it's
too
catch-22 because you need the synthetic, like they call for synthetic oil for the phasers, but
Yep.
then you get prolonged oil changes, which leads to the sludge and whatnot.
Yes.
So we made a video a long time ago. Oil is cheap. Do more oil changes. That's all it comes down to.
Yep.
So this one does have piston squirters. I think second and third gen don't have it because Ford figured they could save some money and not use them. And I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's a problem.
Typically in a lot of these performance engines too, we block those off because it will actually create a imbalance in the engine.
Okay.
Because you have
Like the
force,
mist.
you have weight on
Yep.
the engine. You get any type of drag applications or race applications, they put windage trays, and they're trying to stop any of that oil from getting on the piston.
Right.
That's just more of a longevity on the manufacturer's side of things.
Say that again. Ford
Yes.
designed
Longevity.
something for longevity?
Try to keep it cool, but it doesn't necessarily always mean it's a good thing. Ford is very known for having good ideas, but not completing the ideas.
My Ford truck and me, we can go almost anywhere.
That's
That's
great.
okay.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll just get this one piston out.
Yeah. That's stock. That's inverse crush.
Yeah, see? So something's going on there.
Yeah. Oh man, I've never had that before. Where I can't pull the bearings off of the crank.
No,
So it was about to get tight. So you're thinking.
I wouldn't say it's an oil pump only because I have good faith in these front-driven oil pumps. Now, another common problem is aluminum bearings. And aluminum bearings on synthetic oil. A, aluminum bearings are softer.
Yep.
And B, synthetic oil is very aggressive and is known to be aggressive on aluminum bearings and aluminum surfaces,
Yeah.
which can lead to a situation like this too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't point at the pump. These pumps are just about foolproof. I've never seen a pump fail.
Okay.
So it would either be an oil problem, either ran
ran
out of oil, which
So-
is common because they burn oil.
Yeah.
Every engine on synthetic burns oil.
Okay.
You see it a lot in like the Lamborghinis, Ferraris. It's in their standard practice that you have to add oil. I would say it's probably just a mixture of high mileage and aluminum bearings or ran out of oil.
I bet he was burning oil and ran it low.
Yes.
I think that's what happened.
Yes.
That's stuck on. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Fine. I've never seen them that stuck before, but yeah, look at all the.
Yeah, look at it. See?
Yeah.
See the top of the bearing starting to come
Yeah.
off?
Yeah. So she was close.
Yeah, so like, and you can see it right there. There is a couple different situations that's there. I would be more focused towards it being the aluminum bearing and being beat on, possibly running out of oil, just lack of maintenance.
It was a part of the F-150, so it was probably stolen.
Yeah. Yep. I like this. You can see the material hanging over the edge there. It's a forged steel crank. The funny thing is with aluminum bearings, when they do start to tighten up and spin, it's almost like a lubricating surface until it gets too hot.
Right.
And then once it gets to that funny temperature, I think it's around 515 or something like that, they'll actually wear out the crank. I see a lot of times when overheated pistons that the piston actually wears out the piston pin. And the piston's a forged piston.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like that.
Right.
But aluminum, when it gets to almost boiling temperature,
Yeah.
it gets very hard, and then we'll take out a crank. Oh, there's a chunk at the bottom of the piston.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of transfer here too.
Okay, so these are 6-bolt mains. So you got 1, 2, 3 times 2. But these are way bigger than an LS. Big flat washer on the side of that compared to the little 8mm bolt or whatever it is. Let's check the out of round, which is what
might be able to forgive this guy for running low on oil if it just started burning it like crazy.
Well, we'll start from direction of rotation or thrust. So we have a 0. We have about a half thou, but that's at the top of the travel, so ring travel. So we're at about thou there at the top, and then we get down at the bottom of it. But that could just be a little bit of sludge on the bottom of it, so I'll pull up a little bit more. So we're at our almost 0. 0. 0. 0. It's got about a thou of out around, but I wouldn't consider that unacceptable. That could just be a little bit of wear from piston ring groove. And I also only just did a quick snap gauge just to
How
get
about
us
the
an
piston
idea.
that broke?
That's just a little bit of sludge on the bottom. So you get about half thou at the bottom there. But that could also be the damage. When it takes an impact like this, it can really deform. So you're at 0 that way. So you're a half thou tight there. 0. A couple tenths tight. So it's really, it's not horrible. I wouldn't say that had anything to do with any type of oil burning and that stuff.
Okay.
These pistons, when they start to heat up, they will conform to that cylinder pretty fast.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're probably gonna get comments, but this is a sun and dial bore gauge. I see a lot of comments about the green and red indicators on here, but that's industry standard, just so you know.
Scott still cares what you guys think. In another 6 months, he'll just like, screw those guys. So comparable to the 5.3, let's say the 5.3 of its time, or even the 6.0. It's definitely a very well-designed engine.
Well designed. Yep.
Take into consideration the variable timing and stuff, but everything to do with a Coyote is like twice the cost of an LS.
Yes.
Which is the downfall on it, which is why so many more people are doing the LSs than they are this. Like you said, if you put the same amount of money into an LS as to hop it up as you do as a Coyote, you get more with an LS because everything is so much more cheaper and there's so much more support for it than there is with the Coyotes.
Yep.
Other than blowers and stuff for the Mustangs. But
money aside, if you put the same components on these engines as your LS, your LT engine, you'll be 10 times further ahead of this. I have nothing against Chevy. They're a great engine, but they're still old technology, old pushrod engine.
yeah,
They make great power. They're cheap to make power. But this is the way of the future.
yeah, and the nice thing is now that they have been around for a decade now, that they are starting to become available, and you see engines like this and whatnot. So.
Yep.
So if you guys, we really don't have any plans for this engine. We're not going to put this one in our project. We want to go find a Bronco, but the borders are closed and everything's rotten around here. If you want Scott to build this engine for you, we can set it up with a standalone system and make it run so that it's ready to go drop in whatever you want. So if you want, you can go through debossinquiries@gmail.com. Yeah, definitely comment down below if there's other engines you want to kind of see this to. A little bit of science behind it, not too in depth, but you kind of understand what's going on and what you're getting. And if we got something wrong, or if you know of any other problems, list it down below. It's always helpful to everybody else reading the comments. That's like, okay, they missed that. And
I definitely don't know everything, and I don't pretend to know everything.
that's not what you told me earlier.
I still learn every day. There's always something different that comes in. So if you guys can teach me too, by all means,
Thanks, Scott.
I'm ready to learn.
Otherwise, thanks for watching. Kind of a longer video on why, but we wanted to get in the nitty gritty as to why Scott thinks the Coyote is better than the LS. So yeah, thanks for watching. Get out there, find one, fix it, and get filthy.